Welcome to the Think Fitness Life podcast, where we bring the mind, body, and gym together so you can improve your health, increase performance, and live your best life. For more information, visit thinkfitnesslife.com. Here are your hosts, Matt Gluckman and Eric Menchie.
Life podcast, Mindset, Exercise, and Nutrition with Matthew Gluckman and Eric Menchie. Today we're going to be talking about online training, online coaching, and the shortcomings to that approach. We ourselves have been conducting online training, and in the process of testing our models and our systems, we've seen a lot of reoccurring issues that are pretty common that are going to just come about when you're not physically with somebody. But we've really established a well-rounded approach to help mitigate any problems associated with these risks, I guess you could say, or with these shortcomings. I like that word. I'll probably be using that for the rest of the podcast. But, obviously, just not being with somebody physically in the room is going to create a lot of problems. We can just brainstorm a few, or we can just list a few just off the top of our head right here. But I want to give a chance to talk about time and accountability, because I think those are the two biggest ones that we've kind of worked on to overcome. So let's start with time. When you are working with somebody online, it's really a exponential growth in terms of where you're going to get progress and see successes. And you will take that initial session or two as more of a orientation, kind of walking through the warm-up, correcting anything, trying to be as detailed as possible. Going through the basic exercises of the program can either be really easy for some people or really difficult for others. And we've actually had the best success with people who we've worked with in person for anywhere from a week to a month before they've gone online. And that's not always feasible for everybody, but if you can work with somebody online or in person first and show them some of the fundamentals first, it makes those first couple online sessions a lot smoother, which you want to feel like you're getting an effective workout every session with the individual. When it comes to having an hour, you really are only teaching them to how to work out in the first hour versus actually getting a good workout. And that's what makes it difficult. Because if you think about the warm-up, there's a lot that's involved with movements and activation and breathing, everything that goes into movement prep for that day based upon that individual, based upon their posture, based upon their goals, based upon their starting point. And if you can just walk them through in person, it's 15 minutes. But sometimes the first session for people is that warm-up is about an hour because it's their first time doing it. So they're trying to learn it. They're trying to remember it. They're trying to ingrain it in their system. And that just seems to be the biggest hurdle to overcome is time. What do you think, Eric? What have you experienced?
First that I've experienced, especially is with some of these online training, is like time is you need to take that, but you need to also have an assessment process. Every coach and systems use different assessments. Some don't. And when they don't use assessments, you do not get a feel for who that individual is. So even before we sit down on a stretch mat or a table, like you need that time. Like you said, you need that time to get to know the individual, whether it's in person or like a Zoom call or a virtual call, because you need to understand who that person is mentally, physically, and what their needs and wants are. I think a lot of these programs, apps, whatever you want to call them. They just, okay, they take your age, your height, your weight, and your goals, and they just push you into a program. But they don't understand like that you might have sprained your ankle 20 years ago, or that you have lower back tightness. That app has no idea what and who you are. And that's a hard thing we're seeing now with these apps is they're just spitting out exercises. I've had clients who like, hey, I did this and it went to a high percentage of a deadlift that person should not have been doing. And what happened? That person got hurt. So there's a big disconnect, right? And that's what a lot of times, especially what we're doing, is like you don't just get a program. You get a program, but you get consultation time. Before you even get there to the program, we need to make sure that you have that correct understanding of what our program is going to be. And yeah, you are right. It might take 30 minutes to understand some breathing and warm-up mechanics, but that's so important. And that's what's hard, because you need to take that time in a session to have them understand initially off the bat, this is where we need to set your body up to be, position, posture, functioning wise, before we can get to the rest of the program.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, the consultation is super important, but also, and I appreciate you going into the bigger picture, because I was actually talking more about specified programs, and I forgot all about all the other online programs that are really designed for everyone. There's a lot of just plug and go programming out there that is going to be kind of the rule of thirds. I don't know if people are familiar with the rule of thirds in basic pharmacology. Is that 1/3 of the time the drug or medicine will work, 1/3 of the time the drug or medicine won't do anything, and 1/3 of the time the drug or medicine will make things worse. So if you're looking at the bell curve of the population, you're trying to make something that's going to try to hit the nail on the head for the majority of that bell curve. Odds are you're going to have a good percentage of people it's not going to be the right fit for, and like Eric said, could ultimately lead them to injury because they could be doing something that they shouldn't be specifically. And yeah, there are a lot of free apps out there, free programming on there, and lower cost programming and apps like $10 a month or something that might be exactly what someone needs. But if you're looking for more than just some basic exercises to complete, and you're actually looking to get somewhere with your training and have a goal for your training, even if it's just about getting better every day, then you do need something that's taken into account your starting point and your exercise history and your movement patterns and your lifestyle and your stress levels and your work levels and your diet. And that's where we really try to hone in on that process, because between the four of us, I'm probably the one who's trained the least amount of years, but everyone's about 10 years or more of working with people in person. And we might have an idea of what general exercises we want to see people complete and where we want to take their strength. But there's like a connection piece from where they are right now to where we want to get them, and that requires the attention that individual needs and deserves of a person, and it can't be as easily calculated as a lot of trainers wish it was. And I've seen more success and progress with people when that step-by-step function of starting point to getting them in sort of our system and our process headed towards where we want to take them. It's almost like that's the training wheels stage. That's the hand-in-hand stage where we're guiding them through it. I've seen so much success through that because of our experience to help prevent someone from falling off. It's like that initial period is so crucial, because you're either going to get someone to start to move up the hill and then just stop, and that boulder comes rolling back downhill, and now they've lost more motivation, they've become demoralized, and now they don't believe in themselves and they don't believe they can do it. So when that stage, and you can get them into the groove before they get like the itch, I like to call it, where they love it. They're seeing and feeling the results, and they see the value in going to bed an extra 15 minutes earlier. They see the value in, not eating starches and grains for every meal. They see the value in weight training and getting their aerobic activity in. That's when they've created that momentum themselves. It's like it's like at the beginning, it's that little spark, that little ember, and we're holding on to it just so carefully so that no wind blows it out. And then once it's caught on to spark, and that flame grows and that fire expands, then they're much more self-sustainable and self-propagating on themselves. And some people don't need a trainer at that point. Some people feel like they can do it all themselves. They go off, they do stuff on their own, they come back after a couple weeks or a couple months, and they want that guidance again. But to take someone who's already been at a point where they're unhappy with something, and it's already taken the courage and the self-awareness to say they want to change something and make the change and ask someone to help them with that change. If you fail to deliver that change and that assistance and that guidance in that first couple weeks, that critical period, you could set that person back another year or more. So I think it's so important, the beginning stages working with somebody, to get them to believe in themselves, get them to get better habits around sleep, get them to get better habits around diet, get them into a well-rounded exercise routine that isn't too strenuous and too stressful on their system, but isn't too easy and wasteful for their extra time that they're spending on exercising. Then you're going to get somewhere. And that's a big thing that I don't see in online programs, is that, again, that, I guess, that onboarding process, what you call it.
Right. And a lot of them don't have that. And there's no reminiscence of that. So it's a good initial thing, right? And they have these set programs or days. And I've also seen, not all, I've seen some with some interesting periodization and program design. It's just kind of all over the place. And then what's it good for, right? Does it have certain phases? Does it not? Is it just random generated every day? And some of them are, and some people follow that. But as you and I know, this world of fitness is a lot more in depth, and there needs to be changes made on a program, whether it's weekly, whether it's sometimes daily, or definitely monthly, for continuing adaptation growth. And I don't think a lot of the apps really program for that. They program, especially the free ones, right? The free ones, you're going to have people go on and be like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Look at the last year of COVID. There's been a lot of apps that are like that. Some of them you go on and you're just going to get random strength workouts every single day. Does it get people moving? Yes. Can I complain? Really? No. But at what point are some of those very similar workout programs or classes and apps going to be non-conducive to that individual? My also big thing is movement screens. I know you use the FMS. I've used that in the past. I do a little different movement screen now. The app doesn't know what it looks like. And I think there is one, I don't know the name of it, but it's supposed to like scan you and sort of like see what your posture is. All dandy, but you do need a human eye, another coach, to look at you and understand what might be going on with you, or look at your leg only goes 30 degrees versus where it should be at 90 degrees. An app can't tell that. And if you have these issues, say you have limitations through movement patterns, and all of a sudden the app's like, all right, we're going to do front squats and chin-ups. Do you think an individual who has limited range of motion can get there? Probably not. So there's a big, for me, like I'm kind of against apps. Like I do like them. There's certain ones out there that are run by trainers that are behind them, and you're seeing, like ours, you're going to get consultations. You're going to get, a phone call. We're going to see who you are. We're going to kind of figure out who you are. But the ones that are just generic, you have to be careful with what you're doing and how you're loading the system, because in fairness, anyone can kind of write a workout program. And if that person's never done it, how do you just don't know what someone else is going to experience.
And kind of like what you said was that you can't complain because it just depends what stage they're at. If someone's at the stage where they're lacking the motivation or the drive to even work out at all, then yeah, having the question of what you're going to do solved already can help. And maybe the apps are great for you in that initial stage, just to get you doing something every day, getting you to dedicate a little bit of time to your health and your body every day, getting you kind of out of your comfort zone a little bit and starting to build that motivation, head towards somewhere. That's great. That's great for you. But if you're someone that's still struggling to get on a good sleep schedule, still feeling like dog shit in your workouts, still feeling that reoccurring neck pain or hip pain or shoulder pain or low back pain, or you're still just a little bit overweight that you just can't overcome, then you're probably not at the stage where those free apps can help you. And you do need someone to guide you along whatever stage you're at so they can help overcome those hurdles and any other plateaus you may be experiencing so that you can get where you're going, wherever your goals, wherever you want your goals to take you.
And what are you going to say the consistency of an app is, right? People are on it for a month or two, and then they jump to another one, and they might just stop.
They say that if you do something for 20 days, you've created a habit. Mm-hmm. I would almost say that people who are still struggling to get consistent probably haven't used the app long enough. Or, right, to your point, they started using the app for 20 days but stopped seeing results. So they're like, what's the point of using this app? And then they kind of roll back down the hill again and lose that motivation and that drive again.
Because everything's measurable. Everything in this industry has to be measurable. So whether we're stepping on a scale where we're seeing numbers increase or decrease, and the ones I've seen that people have brought to me, there's no progression. There's no, continual increase of resistance or that movement pattern. I've seen, all right, we're going to do push presses. And then I don't see that for another 4 or 5 workouts. And I go, well, how do we know that this person is getting stronger? How do I know that they're getting better at this movement? So for me, it's kind of like, why? There's programs that we've done. I mean, you're doing front squats consistently week over week over week. So you can see that progression. If I never see progression, right, I never do that exercise in a row for 3, 4, 5 weeks. How is it measurable?
Well, I think like what I was saying about the stages, I think that's kind of a fix for someone in the early stages. So what I mean by that is in the early stages, some of the roadblocks that you can run into that'll prevent you from your consistency is 1, not knowing how to do something, and 2, looking at the day's workout and feeling bored by it or feeling like a drag by it. Like it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that again. It's the same thing we did last Tuesday. So I feel like a lot of these lower, I don't know how to put it. I don't want to be rude, but I guess more of these programming for the masses apps, I feel like that's kind of their approach, is to have like a different workout of the day, so to speak, or a different workout week over week. And instead of tracking something specific like a movement pattern based on science, based on the kinesiology and physiology of our body, and seeing those numbers go up, so then knowing how different systems up and down the chain are associated with that movement, they just say, they might have, I've seen a couple of them that will like remember your data. So like you said, like if an exercise comes back, it'll say, oh, last time you did a plank, you held it for 45 seconds. So it might say, okay, good job. You went for the full minute this time. Or it might just help you be aware of where you were at last time you tried that plank. At the same time, if your goal is strength to run a marathon or strength in your endurance system to, bike 120 miles or lose 10 pounds of fat, how is that measurability of that exercise going to relate to your overall goal? So I think that's where a big disconnect is too, because some of the apps are good at measuring something, but not at something that's going to directly relate to the high functioning individual who's looking to achieve and overcome even their own mental barriers for their achievements, so to speak. Like people who don't even know they can run a sub 6 minute mile. How is an app going to stress that limit? Because most often than not, our mind is our limiting factor. So if I go into an app saying all I want to do is follow along this app, and then I have to trust that the app's not going to limit me. But the classic line is, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and that's just kind of how nature works in a way. So if the app allows for the individual to not be held accountable or not be pushed up to a certain point to get their training effect, then they're not going to get it. The app has to be designed in a way, or the program has to be designed in a way to overcome physical and mental barriers so that they can achieve beyond what they even thought they could achieve. And that's really the point of a coach, a programming individual or a coach, is you're buying into somebody who you trust is going to see the biggest potential in you. And how many times have you been around your coach? Me and myself was talking with my coach and been like, yeah, okay, he's right. And before I even believed in something that I could achieve, he's already there because he's already seen it. So that's another piece you're buying into is the belief that it is possible, because you didn't know it was. Because if you did know it was possible and you believed you could do it, and you knew the road to take, what's stopping you? So if you can get that professional in your corner who you can trust is going to look out for you, now you're going to start to reap the rewards of going beyond what you don't know is possible for you. Because the classic phenomenon that will always be true, you will never know what you don't know until someone presents it to you. So you have to always be open to learning and always be open to growing. And a lot of these apps are too over catered to an individual. And we're talking more about the free ones, because I've seen some good ones that you pay for, and they just try to appease the individual. Well, let me tell you a little story about that. I've seen plenty of trainers that just want to appease their clients. Did their clients get anywhere? No. Were their clients too nice to say anything? Yes. Was the trainer just happy to collect a paycheck? Yes. Was that proper training? Just depends on how you're looking at it. Sometimes the client's paying for someone so they don't have guilt on their system. And other times the trainer's just taking that person on to be there for them because they just want someone to be there and watch them. Right. So I'm not going to blame anyone about it, but it's a true problem that needs to be overcome. And that's what we've done with our online training system. And because if we go... Sorry, go back.
I would say that's the premise of a coach. There's been, in the last, 5 years, I mean, you've heard it, I've heard it. Oh, this online automated stuff's going to take over. This is going to take over. And from day one of that stuff coming out, I've said, no, it's not. It's not going to, because there's, like anything else in the world, there's nothing like a human eye looking at another human. A computer can't look at you and tell you, oh, this is what they're moving. They can tell speed of a barbell if you have it hooked up to like a Tendo unit or in some velocity base, but just a computer can't tell you certain things. There are some technologies out there that if you come into a squat rack, it tries to measure how fast you're moving, but that stuff's been debunked, right? If you move your head quick enough, it goes, wow, that was a fast rep. Did you even squat? No, you just moved your head. So this is where just having a coach understand and kind of monitor your program goes a lot further. In person is a little bit different, because when someone needs to progress on a lift, you can tell. As coaches, we can tell if that bar moved really quick. Okay, that person at certain rep ranges can probably move up in weight. A computer can't tell that. It can't see the effort given, the struggle given. But when we get that, or if it's an online, you get feedback from a person. You talk to the person and you say, hey, how was this? How did that go? And they start giving you information. From our experiences of coaching, we know what that looks like. And then we say, okay, you can go up 5 pounds here. If an app just says, hey, go up 5-10 pounds, that 5-10 pounds might be too much. That might put that person into injury. And that's our biggest fear and issue with apps is if it progresses too much, it leads into injuries too quick. And as you said, people love variability. Oh, I did that last week. I want to change something new. That's not what exercise programs and prescriptions are about. It's about consistency of doing things over and over again to get strong and to get good and to learn the movement patterns. If things are changing too quick in a program, you're not going to get anywhere where you want to be, and you're not going to learn the movement patterns. I've had clients that do that. Why are we doing the same thing over and over again? And I tell them, hey, you're going to get 3 to 4 weeks of this. Like, this is what it's going to be. Oh, I want to do some new stuff. But you haven't got strong and learned any new stuff, the other stuff. In-person coaching, right? Whether it's online or you have that one-on-one connection with a coach is always going to be superior to these just apps or these mirrors or these things that are just going to give you feedback that's on a screen on a wall. Hate to say it, but and there's no like you said, accountability. There's no interpersonal relationship built through an app. So you're just kind of like, oh, this is what the app told me to do. If I don't want to do it today, I don't want to do it today. There's something different when we can go in and say, hey, we're going to edit your spreadsheet. You need to be doing 50 pounds for set 1, and then you need to go to 55 pounds for set 2. The app just says, do 3 sets at 10. So there's my little spiel with the apps and coaching, right? We humans need to oversee and coach, just like anything in education. You're not going to get these computers to teach kids because other humans in their profession, they can read people. They know what people can go through or see how they react to things. And that's how you base a program off. That's why, hence, we do the initial assessment. I'm very much like, I'm sure you do. I want to see you via Zoom, see who you are, get to know you face to face and understand, hey, what's your life like outside of your fitness goals? Because that also plays a role.
And it's why I'm an advocate of wanting or needing to work with someone in person first. Not to say that it's the be-all, end-all. Things can still be done if you haven't seen someone or worked with someone in person. But I've seen greater success with the people who I work with online who we've met with in person first. Whether they were a previous client or a new client, there's just something about teaching someone and being there with them to demonstrate or correct or to see little details and to streamline a lot of that stuff when you're in person versus online, so that when you go to the online sessions, it can be about sort of the meat and potatoes about the work of that day. Another big issue and hurdle that we've overcome is wearing so many hats, because as a trainer, you're wearing the hat of the, emotional intelligence therapist, of the sleep coach, of the diet coach, of the relationship coach, of the strength coach, of the breathing coach, of overall lifestyle. And when you're having to do that in person, it's a lot easier to manage and juggle because you can keep someone moving through the exercises. But when you are taking a break out of an online session, it's hard to multitask, so to speak. And it's where the idea of having multiple coaches in your corner stemmed from. And so we've seen a lot of success by breaking up this idea of health into 4 main pillars. Or, excuse me, your idea of kind of your training for life and health into 4 main pillars, 4 main bank accounts that you deposit into every week. And that includes mindset, absolutely, and stress levels. It includes diet and sleep. It includes strength training and mobility, and it includes aerobic conditioning and the way your breathing patterns work and your how you breathe essentially. And because we're online, you can't always be you can't be those four coaches all at once in 1 hour and still expect to get your program that you have uh, scheduled for that day in with that client. So we've seen a lot of success in breaking that up. And we have four different coaches to help in those four different assets. There's four different pillars. And I think that has also worked really well for the clients we've worked with because in their head, they get to be a little bit more organized. They aren't like, okay, here's this trainer. I need to tell them 10 things that happened this week. It's like, okay, here's my strength coach. I'm going to tell him these 3 things that pertain to that he needs to hear. Here's my stress and mindset coach. I need to talk to him about this stuff. Here's my nutrition and sleep coach. They're sending me good information. I don't need to talk to them about anything. Or maybe I do need to talk to them about something this week.
Yeah.
But the idea is that it's more organized in the brain of the individual so that it's also less stressful. Because when you have 5 things on your plate versus 1 to address that day in that hour, it's a lot more manageable and you're going to learn and grow. But if I'm addressing all 5 things with that in that 1 hour with that person, it's gonna be pretty frantic. It's gonna be pretty disorganized, and it's probably only going to maybe make them feel organized and comfortable on that topic for the day, but there's still going to be stuff left over and lingering in the future. And that's not efficient. With our time, we want to be as efficient as we can, overcome a lot of these barriers and hurdles so that, again, we can be progressing people through life week over week, month over month. But I do want to also list a lot of the other problems that come with online training. So I made a little list here. The ones that I've ran into. I talked about breathing. I talked about time. I talked about accountability. The problems with online training in general is we've kind of talked about these two about seeing details of posture, but seeing details to correct their form a lot harder online. Showcasing smaller details to correct someone's form, meaning the trainer doing it on the video so that the individual can see, another difficult thing to show online. Ensuring proper muscle activation, another difficult thing to ensure online because you're instructing, you're telling them, you're seeing, but you're just assuming they're doing it right with the proper cues, but you're not really sure if they're really feeling it the way you need them to, which is actually a shortcoming in person too, but it's a little bit easier to tell if they're doing it the right way that you're coaching them on in person than online. This is a big one. Feeling the energy of the workout and if things need to be pushed a little bit further during the session or need to back off a little bit. That can be hard to assess online.
Or even an app.
Spotting.
An app doesn't know how to do that. Like when
Yeah.
kind of bring it back to what we said earlier about those 5 different things. Sometimes you have to pick and choose. Some days that person might not be there for that workout on the app. Understandable. And that is a problem, right? So if it's not there for that workout and they're at a high intensity workout, that might not happen. And that's a tough thing. And as coaches, we kind of feel it. If they email us and say, hey, that day didn't happen, you build in contingency plans, right? It's interchangeable. It's not the end of the world. Maybe you move that day to the end of the week and bring another day in, or you do something different. That's why we need the feedback from the person. So they don't just skip it, or they do something and it's not worth their time.
Yeah, because your coach could definitely help you adjust accordingly depending on what last week looked like, what next week looks like, whatever hurdle you're trying to overcome in that particular week. Spotting, obviously another one that's hard to do when you're online. You can't spot someone on a bench press over the internet.
No, there's been many times where I'm like, I'll be doing online or via Zoom or whatever, and I'm like, oh man, we can't go to that intensity today because I can't spot you. And it's a limiting factor, and we just take in consideration, okay, how do we get this person stronger at the weights they feel comfortable with without a true spot? Because you can't risk it. You have to be safe. So because
Yeah.
when you're listening, if you're out there and the app says, hey, we're at 85% or above, 90% or above, and you don't have a spotter, and that's what the program's telling you, be smart about it. Whether you're setting up pins or hey, this might not be there because I don't have a spotter, that's when you got to be safe, because an app they might not take in consideration you might not have a spotter. You might just be doing that alone in the gym. Make sure you know it's safe.
If you're bench pressing, don't put clips on, so you can always dump the weight if you have to. But yeah, that's definitely a big one even for me. Like when I'm working out on my own, I won't go for that one rep when I'm bench pressing. You know what I mean? Like that rep where you're like, the rep before it was a little bit of struggle. You're pretty confident you could take the next rep, but if you don't hit it, you're not going to have anyone to help you. So it's like not worth it. And that's being smart. That's being smart.
Back in my old days, I would be like, I'm going for it. Now I'm like, I'll come back to it tomorrow, 3 days later.
Yeah, because I've been there where I've rolled the bar down my chest and my stomach and then to my waist, and then I sat up and then I picked it up and put it down.
I've done that many times.
I've been there where I dumped the weight to the side and then dumped the weight to the other side. Or I've been there where you're so close and then you just kick your butt off the bench and get that lumbar spine helping push the bar back up onto the rack.
What I've been telling, and I've used to lately and been using is, and I tell people if they have availability of a half rack or a squat rack, set up the pins to where it's maybe an inch or below where your chest taps. So when you come down, if you don't get that, all you do is bring that bar down. It might feel like it's crushing you just a little bit. Once you find the pins, that weight's off your system. You can roll the bar, or you can like sneak under the bar slightly. That's a way I found safely.
Scoot to the side.
Yeah, safely. If you're trying to go heavy, 90% plus or 1 rep max, and you don't have a spotter, that's how you do it safely. So you know that you're not going to be stuck with whatever 300 pounds on your chest, and you don't know what to do with that.
Yeah,
but you're right. That's an individual thing. But if you don't have that and you're not comfortable with that, don't try to go heavy weights if you don't have a spotter. That's sometimes, or most times, online programs don't take account for it. Or if you are at a gym, go find someone to spot you.
I will do that though with the pins. It's just like I'm either at a pin where the bar is going to be crushing my rib cage anyway before it touches the pin, or it's too far up and my natural bench press would hit the pin. So it just, it's a little bit of a mental thing that I just like adjust where when I set the pins up, I actually have to start my up phase a little earlier than normal, just so I can actually have the safety pin there. But hey, it's all worth it because it'll keep you training in the future.
Exactly.
The other 3 other shortcomings to online training: setting up and breaking down definitely plays a role in, again, the time of the session and the way that you program. At least I know that I will program around that, so to speak, where if there's going to be one main exercise, it's going to be a lot of weights on and off or just a larger setup, then I really only want like one of those transitions to burn like 5 minutes in the whole hour. I don't want to be just burning 15 minutes doing transitions. That's a quarter of our time.
And I think is another one on your list supersets, or is this similar?
No, I didn't. I'll save yours. I got 2 more.
Well, no, it goes right with the other one. Like that transition. Some apps, it's like, oh, we're going to squat, and it's like you have to pair it with the bench press, and it's halfway across the room, and you're not going to be able to hold 2 different stations. So that's a huge difference. You're not going to go back and forth and waste time and walk, or you have to go upstairs and downstairs or halfway across the gym. Apps don't realize where the equipment is. That's another thing. Once you've talked to someone, you find out, hey, my squat rack's close to a dumbbell rack. Okay, we can bring some dumbbells over. Remember, you and I used to do that all the time. We take the squat rack, we bring everything right there. We do supersets.
Well, because you're really limited sometimes by not only the equipment that you have access to, but like how the workout's going to progress so that you don't waste time, breaking down a squat rack just to set up a landmine that you're going to use for 3 sets it just depends. Because maybe you're trying to do like a landmine, a bench press, and a single arm landmine row. If you have 2 bars, sure, that's easy. If you have 1 bar, that's going to be wasting time pulling that bar out of the landmine twice, for 1 set. So, yeah, setup and breakdown definitely is a variable that should be accounted for with online training that you're not going to get out of just an app that you would need individual support for. But the other 2 I got was teaching a new movement on the fly, because there's a lot of times where I'm working with a client, they just did something and boom, now I just want them to do this like half kneeling hamstring hold position, or I want them to do
favorite.
an arm bar real quick and they haven't done an arm bar, or something like a core cable press, or like a Pallof press is a core cable press, but something that might need to be regressed right away on the fly because of something that you see in the session. It's not always easy to just be like, all right, we got to do this really quick. It's going to take 2 minutes. Like, no, we got to do this really quick, but it's going to probably take us 5 minutes to explain, walk you through, show, get you to do it, get me to see if you're doing it right, and then keep on with the rest of the routine. So that I've noticed that a couple times in online training, like I've had to stop myself instead of going right and hammering them into something new that's going to help that current lift. It's like, okay, take a note. We're going to have to work on this the next warm-up period and just teach them that. And then next time that we get into that opportunity, we'll be able to throw that in there. But I definitely wrote that down because that's something that I think is a problem that comes with just online training.
And especially if you don't have videos, you put something new in, so a person's like, I have no idea what this is. And then they go look it up on YouTube and it might not be the right thing. I mean, we've experienced that in our trials. So we had something new. Someone's like, what is that? I don't know what that is. And it takes them, what would you say, 2, 3, maybe 4 days of that continuous exercise to really be like, oh, I understand what this is. But
I don't know. I feel like I have some people who I've been working with for 3 months and they're still like, when I throw out a term for something, they're still like, what is that again? And
they might know,
time.
Might not know it by name until you get them in a position. They're like, oh, I remember this one. But that's the difference between online and working. Someone you're going to say something, they have no idea what that is. But once you get them in the position, they start feeling things. They're like, oh, I understand this. So apps might throw you warm-ups or movements that people are like, I have no idea what this is. How do I do this?
And
how
to
can
Eric's
an app
point,
coach that?
if you looked up something as simple as the 90-90 hip lift or the dead bug, you're going to click the first 3 videos are going to be nuanced in a very different way. And your coach might want you to, he might be thinking, I need her to feel or him or her to do the 90-90 hip lift so they can feel their adductors, hamstrings, glutes, and core on all together at the same time. Or they might be thinking, I need them to feel the 90-90 hip lift so they'll do a pelvic tilt and put their hips in the right position.
Yep.
Whatever they're specifically looking for out of that exercise might not be what you find on YouTube. So it should be done by that publication or approved by that publication. They might send you a specific video of somebody else, but it's exactly what they're trying to, get across to you. But the last one I wrote was breathing, because
I love it.
It's so true that you don't have a good idea of the way they're breathing in online, and it's such a double-edged sword because you want to make sure they're breathing properly, but at the same time, you don't want them to be spending 70% of their energy going, because you want all that energy to be donated towards the actual lift and the exercise. So it's so hard to see if breathing is their limiting factor, or if they're chest breathing, or if they're belly breathing properly, or if they're having proper pressurization in their core. So breathing is another limiting factor to online training.
Huge.
And if there's something I didn't mention, feel free to rattle off something.
I mean, we could go down a list of things. I think most of us know that the in-person coaching is going to be the way to go. But as this world transforms into the online, the ability to this in-person is going to be more of a hybrid in-person kind of thing. You're not just going to get a program and go with it. If you want that, yes, then we can get over to you. We have generic programs like anything else, but you're going to get a little bit more, right? You're going to get a little bit more insight to why you want to do this. We want you to understand why you want to get there. and then how we kind of function and use certain terminology and certain movement patterns. And it's not your just generic, you're going to be doing push pull one day and lower body. Like, this is a much more in-depth program approach to take in consideration the human body, biomechanics, like Matt said, how we breathe. That starts everything. And if you don't respect that going into a training program or an app, then I'll tell you right now that your whole program's maybe 50% useless. You need to respect the things going on with the human body before you even step into a gym if you want to see results, progress, or change. If not, you're going to more possibly lead to tissue tightness, injuries, stiffness, and limitations. So if your app does not do that for you, it might be a time to reassess your app and start asking the important questions of what are you getting out of your app? And is that driving the needle closer to where I want to be? If not, reach out, talk to us. We will drive you in that direction with what we have program-wise. We have different programs, whatever you're looking for: strength, power, speed, hypertrophy. What else do we have, Matt? Bodybuilding, yoga. We got it.
So it just depends on what the individual's looking for. If they are the type that, I do want to go on and say that you know yourself better than we do for now, right? And that's always going to be the case. You're always going to know yourself better than your coaches. They might have better insight to help you get to where you need to go. But you ultimately kind of know what's going to be best for you, whether you're the type that is good enough just hearing some good information and can apply it to yourself, and you're already in a great place, you're just trying to maintain or keep pushing yourself forward, keep pushing the needle, then that's great. Or maybe you're the person that, as Eric said, just looking for a program. Maybe you're looking for more strength, or you're looking for more power, you're looking for more endurance, you're looking for a better physique, you're looking for better mobility, or you're looking to just overcome mental issues through exercise. We have different programs allotted for different categories. But then for the people who know that they need more hands-on approach and need the oversight and the experience of a trainer to get that condensed knowledge that they're seeking, then you're probably going to want our all-inclusive approach, which is like the Mayo Clinic of fitness. Because again, it's 4 trainers approaching 4 different pillars and growing all 4 pillars at the same time, week over week, month over month, so that you be the best individual you can be for your life. And really, we specialize in longevity and performance. So performance for today, but performance for the next 20 years. I see too many programs that just hammer home power and strength too much and can lead to overuse injuries. And that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to, get you to look amazing in the shortest period of time, because that ultimately has some shortcomings with it. We want you to look the best, feel the best, operate the best, and be the best individual you can be for your family, for your business, for your whatever status you're at in life. And that's really the difference between our 3 tiers, essentially, is at the lowest level, we have plenty of free content out there. We're working on releasing an app for free just to help people hold themselves accountable. It'll ask them basic questions like, how well are they sleeping that day? How stressful do they feel? Or how much stress are they carrying? How much energy do they feel they have? And then they can log their own workouts. They can log their own food, and they can start to keep like a journal themselves, so that, again, we're solving the accountability piece. We're solving the time piece by trying to help streamline it. That'll be free for all people. Then we have specified programs depending on where you're looking for your progress and your goals. Those are at a lower price point. And then we have our big ticket item, which is having 4 coaches in your corner to help you with those 4 areas of your life to, again, be the best individual you can be. So it just depends on what you're looking for, but it starts off with a call. We offer everyone just a free consultation call. You can go right to our website, thinkfitnesslife.com, and click on the click here button to book to start your free trial. You can schedule a call with any one of us just to get an assessment and see if we're a good fit for you, or maybe we can put you in the right direction. And that's it for today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll catch you next time. Peace out.
If you're ready to make steps towards improving your health or increasing your performance, book a free 30-minute call today by visiting thinkfitnesslife.com.